Hey guys, it's your favorite Donabot here, and let's continue where we left off. When we last left off here, the Autobots had successfully made their way towards Cybertron and successfully recovered the Omega Lock. However, they also brought back a friend, that being Jazz. However, unfortunately, where there came a new ally, new enemies appeared with the Constructicons, now having the Enigma of combination and declaring war on both sides here. To which we actually begin today on Operation Bumblebee, but it starts off a bit differently here. And it actually picks up a day before the actual episode starts, where Jazz is actually back at the base with the other Autobots, actually saying how good it feels to be back here. But when he looks among the ranks, he sees Knockout, Breakdown, RC, Bulkhead, and Bumblebee. And he looks confused and asks, "Where's Cliffjumper?" To which the mood immediately shifts, and Jazz picks this up very quickly. And he feels his spark ache that his best friend is gone. And so RC is the one to take him to Cliffjumper's burial, to which he explains what happened, and that Starscream was the one who killed him, likely when he was defenseless. And so Jazz, clenching his fist and with RC's hand on his shoulder, vows to vanquish Starscream for Cliffjumper. He says, but right now, he wants to get used to this planet. He wants to get used to them and maybe catch up for old time's sake, considering it's been a while since they've seen each other. And so, with that being said here, this is where we actually get a very different situation here. Remember the Speed Metal episode here where Knockout was actually enjoying street racing? Yeah, or the episode, I should say here, where Smokescreen was being taught by Jack here on how Earth works. Well, this actually happens a bit earlier, but with Jazz and Jack instead here. And, well, it goes a little bit differently here. You see, Jazz is able to not only listen, but follows through with everything here. He's not reckless. This is Optimus Prime's, right-hand man here, his lieutenant, one of his closest allies. So again, it's a lot smoother here until we get Vincent, the bully. As usual, he does try to clown on Jack in this situation in front of Sierra, who Jack is actually trying to impress with the car here. However, Vincent not only bullies Jack, but actually throws a burger at, well, Jazz here. And this doesn't sit too well with the lieutenant here. And so he actually turns his volume up to such a frequency that it pops Vincent's tires on his car. Into which Sierra actually laughs at this here. And so, with that being said here, Jack actually drives off and actually tells Sierra, well, he could probably pick her up later. And this is where she says she'll consider it. And this is where they drive off. Jazz actually notes that Jack isn't smooth with the ladies at all, now is he? And, well, Jack does convey that, well, he does like her, but he just doesn't know how to express it. He's been able to impress her before, but doesn't know how. To which he asks him, what does she enjoy here? Well, Jack says, well, she enjoys rides. And so this is where Jazz actually spins around and actually drives right back to Sierra and says that, yeah, they can, go on a ride here. And so Jazz opens his door, acting like Jack pushed a button or something, making him out to look like some fancy car here. And so Sierra hops in, and the two actually go for a drive, with Jazz actually playing some romantic music here. And so the mood does get a little awkward here, and Jack tries to, change the tune here, but Jazz keeps playing around and fidgeting with it, and so it makes it more romantic, and then, well, obviously he makes it awkward for him a little bit here. But again, he does try to mean his good intentions here, but at the end of the day here, Jack actually scores another date with Sierra, an official date, I should say here. And so Jack drives all back to the base, excited like he's never been before. And so we would then begin with Operation Bumblebee. This episode plays out differently, with the beginning of them actually going after the spark extractor, or the spark harvester, I think it was here. Let me know down below which one it was here. I know it's the spark extractor or the harvester. I'm not entirely too sure, but I know it's one or the other. And so this episode actually has Optimus, Bumblebee, Ratchet, Jazz, and Breakdown. So with that being said here, the battle actually goes on the same here. But when Megatron holds out the spark extractor, Bumblebee and Jazz give each other a look. And Jazz actually asks him, think you can get it? To which Bumblebee bleeps and actually acknowledges that, yeah, he's got this here. And so, just unlike in the original, Bumblebee goes into his vehicle mode, drives right on in, swerves around Megatron, takes the spark extractor, and dips out the space bridge, with Jazz giving Megatron a sonic blast complemented by Breakdown's hammer to the face. And, well, they dip, with both Breakdown and Jazz giving each other a fist bump as they run through the space bridge laughing. And this pisses Megatron off greatly, as when he gets back to the warship, he is fuming. He is furious. To which he asks his Soundwave, what is their status update on the Stunticons? To which Soundwave actually says, or Soundwave shows on this map here, that they're currently just traveling on the roads here, terrorizing any citizens. And so Megatron says, well, at least there'll be a good distraction for the Autobots while we conduct our operations. Right now, he needs a plan. He needs an other plan as well. But he also tells Soundwave a lot earlier to go ahead and decrypt the rest of the Iacon database. And so with that being said here, while Bumblebee is driving around here, he eventually does get ambushed by Mech and, well, surgically gets his T-Cock removed here. And with that being said here, the episode now truly begins here. When Bumblebee conveys what happened and says that he doesn't know he was blacked out, this is where Breakdown clenches his fist and hits it against the wall and says, Mech. It makes so much sense that they would do this here. Why else would they take a T-Cog? And to which Bulkhead comforts Breakdown here, telling him it's not his fault. But Breakdown feels like he owes Bumblebee as his responsibility to actually punish those do-gooders here. However, unfortunately, they have a relic to catch right now. And so, in this timeline, Optimus takes a bit more with him. He takes RC, Bulkhead, and Knockout. And so, they go to retrieve the Forge of Solus Prime. Meanwhile, in this timeline as well here, we have Jazz, Breakdown, and Bumblebee trying to comfort the, trying to comfort Bumblebee here, And so they're trying their best here, but Bumblebee does want his T-Cog back. And so with that being said here, with them getting an Energon report here, they actually go to investigate it. However, in this timeline, it's actually Swindle and Onslaught replacing Breakdown and Knockout, with Jazz actually taking off to get Onslaught, and we actually see Breakdown and Bumblebee go toe-to-toe with Swindle. Yes, Swindle is an enhanced Combaticon and stuff like that there, or an enhanced Cybertron, here. But again, Bumblebee is actually able to still use his speed and agility, but obviously he does not have the firepower, and Swindle takes advantage of this and actually whips out his own cannon and just starts spraying down on Bumblebee, as Bumblebee has no other choice but to evade here. Meanwhile, Breakdown is actually able to regain himself and actually begins to overpower Swindle and successfully is able to smack him so hard with his hammer, he goes flying through a couple trees and hits the side of the, I guess you could say, the mountain or cave entrance that they came out of here. Meanwhile, with Jazz, he's pursuing Onslaught, which again is not a hard task considering Onslaught is a military truck, while Jazz is a sports car, And he actually talks to Onslaught for a little bit, saying that it's been a while since he found his favorite, Decepticon commander. And to which Onslaught does throw his own bit of shade back, or his own complimentary shade back at him. And so the two actually transform and they begin engaging each other. Onslaught trying to use his physical strength to his advantage, while Jazz actually parries and using his superior skill here to not only outmaneuver, but to decimate Onslaught. Actually, not only outmaneuvering him, but he actually pulls a, I guess you could say, a sort of counter shield, if you will, when Onslaught gets a sort of upper hand here, whereas Jazz pretty much falls to the ground. He starts to spin himself around, and utilizing his sonic blast, he actually spins it around, actually creating a barrier which knocks back Onslaught. And so this unfortunately does destroy the energon canister they came, excuse me, they came to get here. And unfortunately, they do leave the base empty-handed, and with Bumblebee being slightly injured. And when they get back to base, they're scrutinized by Ratchet. Now, just like in the original, Starscream does make an alliance with Mech, albeit it's temporary. However, he also proposes that something else or someone else or 5 other beings are also on this planet capable of taking up an offer. To which Silex asks him, "You mean those 5 misfits that have been messing up my transportations?" To which Starscream says, excuse me, "Yes, the Stunticons would be great allies. Plus, they're also a combiner. Something that Mech would likely love." To which Silas, understanding that he might be getting played for a fool here, and as we all know what TFS Vegeta says, "I know you're playing me, but you're right." And so this is where Starscream actually sets out. And it doesn't take him too long, considering he is a jet. He should be marginally or decently fast enough to catch up with the Stunticons. Plus, they don't leave too much, to keep themselves hidden when they're terrorizing the roads here. And so when Starscream finds them, he lands right in front of Motormaster confidently here. And so Motormaster, taken aback by who he sees, transforms along with Wildbreak, Dragstrip, Heatseeker, and Slashmark following suit here. And Motormaster towers over Starscream here, but Starscream remains confident in himself here, or at least confident in how he can mingle. And so he begins to work his silver tongue while Motormaster kind of keeps his sword drawn. But Starscream remains calm and actually tells Motormaster that he's actually been looking for him lately since he came to Earth. To which Motormaster then states why. He knows good and well he works for Megatron. He is his second in command. To which Starscream says that he no longer works for Megatron. He's serving himself, hoping for a better cause under his control. And so Motormaster then states, "Oh, great, you're independent now. What's it got to do with us?" To which Starscream says he could use allies, not an army, allies. And he says that considering you caused his more human benefactors some trouble, he wants to give Motormaster and the Stunticons an opportunity. You see, there are many things in this world that bridge us together. No matter how you may think about it, Megatron is not going to let you go. And Motormaster begins to think, and this is where Wildbreak actually conveys that, yeah, he's got a point here. Megatron's likely going to find us at any moment. And so, this is where Starscream says, but he can help them. He can help them remain hidden, help them remain free. But he wants to know, what do they truly desire? And this is where Motormaster says, control over this planet's roads. And so Starscream says, yes, of course you would. And so Starscream says he will give that to him, but he must help him. Starscream wants to change some things. He wants to change the Decepticon cause. He wants to eliminate Megatron. And he says that Motormaster will not only be in charge of Earth's roads, but Cybertron's roads. And so Motormaster likes what Starscream is playing down here and says that, so we'll be equal partners. Yes, equals. So as long as you understand that I'm trying to help you and not control you. And so, with that being said here, Motormaster actually retracts his sword and puts it away and shakes hands with Starscream. And so, with that being said here, they all return back to Mech's base. And this is where they find Energon much faster. They're able to experiment with the T-Cog a lot faster. However, just like in the original, they are able to be found out by Breakdown, Jazz, and Bumblebee. Well, I guess not like in the original, but obviously with a few twists here. Meanwhile, back for the Battle of the Forge here, Optimus is in pretty decent shape here. Matter of fact, the Autobots actually succeed in getting the Forge here. Now, the Decepticons that are grabbing this here would actually be Arachnid and Brawl. And believe it or not, they actually put up a great fight. Obviously, RC and Knockout taking on, Arachnid here, with Knockout actually using his stun baton here to actually give RC a whole lot of openings and actually getting the upper hand over Arachnid. And this would allow Optimus and Bulkhead to actually take on Brawl and wind up defeating him, obviously. And so, with that being said here, Megatron does arrive, but he fails in getting the Forge of Solus Prime, meaning the Autobots actually get the Forge in this timeline. And so, after that, they actually go back to help Bumblebee with his T-Cog. However, unlike in the original, he's not there. And Ratchet is pretty much screaming at the monitor here. And they all wonder why. And so, unfortunately, in this timeline, when Bumblebee, Breakdown, and Jazz both go for Bumblebee's T-Cog here, they are met by the Stunticons and Starscream, who says that the only two threats are the ones on the side of the yellow one. To which Jazz isn't too fazed by this here. Meanwhile, Breakdown is freaking out like, crap, he's going to be on that table again. And this is where Silas actually gets to him saying, Breakdown, welcome home. He can't wait to rip him open again and add him to his experiments, along with his two new compatriots here. And so, with that being said here, they all fight. Ain't no way about it. And it takes place in the vicinity. Jazz actually is able to blast all 5 of the Stunticons out, while Breakdown just starts mauling Starscream, just beating the absolute daylights out of him. And this allows Bumblebee to pimp slap all these humans around. Like just like in the original. I mean, it is what it is here. And so, with that being said here, they actually are able to get Bumblebee's T-Cog here. However, unlike in the original, Silas does not betray Starscream, as again, he now has the Stunticons on his side here. And with that being said here, Silas asks him, what's a better opportunity or a better way to get some? To which Starscream actually thinks. And this is where Slashmark actually states that, what about the Viacons? There are plenty just wandering around. And to which Starscream actually smiles and says, that'll do just fine here. Now, unlike in the original here, Optimus is able to, actually fix Bumblebee's T-Cog and actually make sure it's perfected along with, Ratchet's, medical skills, excuse me. And so with that being said here, Bumblebee gets his T-Cog back and feels better than before. But now, another question remains. What do they do now? And this is where Breakdown and Knockout both begin to explain that Starscream has teamed up with the Stunticons. And Knockout says, that does make sense. Seeing the fact that they're both now rogue Decepticons and now rogue factions, respectively, this means that, they could be a problem in the future. If not, probably now. We would then end off with this episode going to Decepticon Warship, and where Soundwave is actually able to retrieve something from Megatron. Vortex, Blastoff, and Soundwave are actually able to retrieve a relic from Megatron that would turn the tide of the war in his favor. And so, when hearing a transmission from Vortex and Blastoff saying they have something they like, Soundwave opens a space bridge, or a ground bridge, whatever. And Vortex and Blastoff both kneel to Megatron and present to him the Requiem Blaster of Megatronus. We then head to the next episode here, Loose Cannons, where this time as the Autobots arrive thanks to a transmission from Agent Fowler, Wheeljack is actually not alone in this timeline and is actually fighting alongside another Autobot of a red color. This Autobot being Ironhide. to which Ironhide and Wheeljack both begin to lay into Dreadwing as in remembrance for their fallen comrade, Sea Spray. And so, because of Agent Fowler's unlikely and undeserving timing, Dreadwing is able to escape by scanning his jet form and taking off here. To which Ironhide and Wheeljack both blow up the gas station, and Jazz simply pinches his, well, non-existent nose or face palms himself and tells the two that that was a gas station. To which Ironhide and Jazz both fist bump, and he pretty much says hello to Optimus and Ratchet, just like in the old days. So basically, we got the original crew back. Optimus, Ratchet, Bumblebee, Jazz, and Ironhide, all back together with the likes of Bulkhead, RC, Knockout, Breakdown, and Wheeljack. Now, most of the episode still plays out the same, except with Ironhide and Bulkhead both going with Wheeljack to intercept Dreadwing, to which, unfortunately, no amount of numbers is going to prepare them for that kind of trap. And so, Wheeljack and Ironhide are the ones trapped underneath the rubble, while Bulkhead is dragged off to set a trap for Optimus Prime here. And this is where something else changes in the timeline here, to which Megatron and Onslaught both arrive at the coordinates along with Blastoff. So Megatron, Onslaught, Blastoff, and Megatron actually states that he wants to try his new Requiem blaster on the Autobots. And so, with that being said here, a whole new battle commences, devastating the junkyard here. However, Wheeljack is able to disable Dreadwing's bombs a lot quicker in this timeline as Ironhide, Jazz, and Optimus engage the Decepticons, to which this battle is a lot rougher for them because now Megatron has the Requiem blaster instead of his regular fusion cannon, and so Optimus is actually hard pressed to counter. But once Wheeljack is able to get Bulkhead out of there, they leave immediately, with Dreadwing being upset that he couldn't get his proper revenge. However, simply, just relenting it and just says, all right, it is what it is here. He does kneel to Megatron and saying that he will serve him and him alone. Keep in mind, this also means Arachnid does not find the Insecticons in this timeline yet. This is due to her never betraying the Decepticons here, because again, she was surrounded by more loyalists and, well, didn't just have Knockout and Breakdown on the ship along with his Soundwave. She has the Combaticons. And now she has Dreadwing, meaning that this episode actually never happens. But here's another episode that could happen here. I like to call this one Operation Starscream. And so this episode opens up with a Energon mine with many Viacons dead. And so we see Mech and the Stunticons actually just surveying the area, some of them harvesting Energon, and some of them taking T-Cogs from some of the Cybertronians, or some of the deceased Viacons and stuff like that there. However, Starscream is looking for parts, specific parts from these Viacons. And so he begins to, take them, begins to pretty much take them away. And this is where Wildbreak is asking him, hey, what are you doing, Screamer? To which he says he is kind of tired, kind of restless of not being able to fight at his peak potential like he used to. And so he needs an upgrade and wonders if he would honor him with giving him that. To which, understanding that Wildbreak is the, more mechanical type, or the mechanic type of the, Stunticons here, Wildbreak actually acknowledges he'll be able to do it, but they're going to need more than just this. They're going to need a bit more ally, a bit more refinery. And they are going to have to take some of the corpses with them to actually give Starscream a proper body. And so they begin to take a lot of Viacon corpses with them. So this means that Mech gets T-Cogs and Energon to continue their experiments here, while also the Stunticons actually handle the transportation, and they get to terrorize anybody on the roads along the way. It's a win-win situation, with Starscream now plotting his next move here. Now, this is also another thing that changes here. The Harbinger, or at least the second half of the Harbinger, the one that I think there was a different part of it, I believe, here. Well, the Harbinger that Starscream takes up refuge at is never discovered. At least, not yet here. And in doing so, this means that the Decepticons, or Starscream, Mech, and the Stunticons here, are able to finally get their Cybertronian experiments up and running. And this is where we actually see Starscream getting his new body. And so, unfortunately, there is no anesthetic, so this process is going to be quite painful. But let's counter that by saying that Mech actually uses their, shocking technology that they used to disable Bumblebee to do this to Starscream so that, well, his process is relatively smooth here. And so Mech actually does take some of the parts of Starscream and actually begin to utilize them in making their next project. And so, with that being said here, we then get Starscream in a new and improved body, much like his Robots in Disguise self, with a little bit of a Fall of Cybertron twist. Starscream then takes up his new vehicle form and feels stronger, faster, tougher. To which Wildbreak says, yeah, he should. He gave him one of the best upgrades he's ever given. And so he then asks Starscream, what's next for them? To which he says he needs to lure a couple Autobots out to test that. And he knows exactly how to get them. To which we would then see Jack, Sierra, Miko, and Raph all simply leave school here that day. And so as Jack gets on RC, Raph gets in Bumblebee, Miko gets in Bulkhead, Sierra's simply walking home. And she's walking home alone in the middle of the night, or at least during the more dawn-like time period here. And so, with that being said here, she is then kidnapped by Dragstrip, who actually just zooms past her, transforms, grabs her gently, and then transforms back into his car, strapping her up, and then driving off here. And this is where he puts out a distress signal towards the Autobots, only making sure it's on their frequency level. And the first person to actually notice this and knows that it's Dragstrip is Jazz, as again, he's been hunting these guys for a while. And so Ironhide and him both actually go to recover Sierra along with RC. To which I guess you could say Jack does come along with them as well here, but yeah, we'll just say he's there for the sake of it here. And Sierra is pretty much tied up to a tower, a decently sized tower in an abandoned area, or a water tower. Let's just say that. It's an abandoned town with a water tower, and the Autobots are looking around wondering where the heck is anybody. And so this is where they see a jet fly over them and transform. And this is where they put two and two together. Starscream, Ironhide asks, and to which Starscream says, yes, Autobots, it is me. And I feel like testing my new body on some unwilling test subjects here. To which this is where Menasor actually appears into view and actually jumps out and, well, lands behind the Autobots here. And this is where Jazz actually prepares all of his weapons to go toe-to-toe with Menasor. Meanwhile, Ironhide actually goes against Starscream, and well, RC goes to get Sierra along with Jack here. And so the battle begins here. Ironhide begins by shooting at Starscream while Starscream evades him and takes out two blades and rushes Ironhide. Ironhide, taking out his Energon axe like from Fall of Cybertron, is actually able to combat Starscream somewhat. However, Starscream begins to outmaneuver him, slashing at his tendons, slashing at his joints and everything here. And this puts Ironhide on the back foot. Meanwhile, Jazz is able to outmaneuver the Constructicons, or the Stunticons, and is actually able to use his Sonic Blast to actually disrupt their focus a little bit here, actually causing them to disassemble, even though it's momentarily. This is where Jack is able to make his way to Sierra, while RC goes ahead to help Ironhide, actually utilizing her vehicle mode and then ramming into Starscream as he transforms at full speed here. This battle gets way too heated and way too out of control here, to the point where Menasor starts causing a storm, to which Starscream then begins to ride in the storm in his jet form and begins to overpower the Autobots here. This is when Starscream says now, and this is where mech soldiers actually begin to come out and begin to shoot at the Cybertronians here. Understanding that they have no way to get out of this here, they simply buy Jack enough time to get Sierra. And so, with that being said here, they all board Jazz, and well, the Autobots get the heck up out of there in their vehicle forms as fast as they could. And so with that being said here, that is where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. Peace.